The power of the mind is miraculous, as specifically when we're talking about the placebo effect. Every drug that is allowed to be sold in the United States has to go through placebo trials. They have to have that as their control group. And the power of the placebo, when somebody thinks that they are getting medicine to cure themselves of some ailment, all of a sudden the power of their mind fixes their problem, whether it's with a sugar pill or a saline solution shot. There's been recent studies in Parkinson's that they've been having phenomenal success with placebos. And that is just amazing whenever we stop and we pause and we consider, wow, my mind just cured a disease or a problem with my body that they thought was incurable. You know, like spontaneous healing from cancer. There's just countless documented cases of that. There are, in every single placebo study, certain people cure themselves with the power of thought. What does that say for the power of our minds? What does it say for the power that we experience on a daily basis that we do not tap into? That we are, just as in our previous video talking about the stars, we don't allow ourselves to open up and expand and view. Same way with our minds, we're not, in mass, not considering our own individual power to heal ourselves from trauma, to heal ourselves from separation, to heal ourselves from actual diseases that all happen by thought.
Gil, I would love to hear what you have to say on this, because I know you deal in your in-depth studies and researches, and all what you do is dealing with a lot of trauma and much through the power of your mind, and I'd like to hear your take on it.
Well, I will have to then add a new dimension into this and say that to heal only by the mind can work for a while, but not permanently, unless you have included in that the power of the heart. And this is something that I believe humanity is just beginning to tap into these days. And again, that's due to the control mechanism that comes through the mind. But when we add the heart into the equation, and many of those that healed themselves through placebo effects and through thoughts, we must ask ourselves, well, in that case, where are those thoughts coming from? What creates those thoughts? We know that the mind is a generator of thoughts, but what influences that? What is impacting the mind to produce those thoughts? Where does the mind receive its nutrients and inspiration? And so this is where we go into the hidden. This is where we go into that which was hidden for us all along, and tap into the power of the heart, and how the heart and the mind are actually one system that works together. And when we go into the program, we see a loop that comes from the lower mind into emotions that are becoming heavy and fluctuating, and into biochemical reactions to those memories. That's a loop. So here is where the disease actually is being developed. When people heal themselves through a placebo or through the mind, either knowingly or unknowingly, wittingly or unwittingly, there is always an involvement, either intuitively, not even knowing about it, unconsciously, or purposefully and consciously, of course, is an involvement of the energetics that comes from the heart, and is inspiring the mind to create new thoughts, to break through old patterns. Those patterns are what creates the diseases. It's a pattern. It can be passed on genetically. It is crystallized in the DNA. It is coming through the genetic mind of unconscious humanity, of subconscious individuality. So those that are really healing, and when the healing is sustainable, that means that there is no relapse. Because many times you see a healing, it goes for a while, and suddenly there is a relapse. Why is that? It's because there was a disconnect from the heart. We cannot trust only the mind for healing. We must include the heart. And in fact, when we do, we realize that the mind is an instrument of the heart, because the heart came first. When you look at the divine order of creation through inner gaze and inner study, you realize that the heart is the first manifested being. Then came the mind.
So when you're talking about the heart, are you talking about more of the passion? Like if somebody has a passionate feel for making a medicine, because even if you're making a medicine off the placebo effect, you know, you had to use your mind to create it. You had to put your heart into it. But then there's the people that don't realize they're getting the placebo, or they think they're getting a real medicine, and they really feel that somebody is trying to help them and they're doing something really good. So I can see where you're talking about the heart, but is that more of a passion, or is that actually what you're talking about, the organ of the heart that we feel here?
I'm talking about the deeper heart. I'm talking about the quantum heart, the energetic heart. I'm talking about the builder of the physical heart. I'm talking about the hub of consciousness, actually, the core of consciousness. You know, heart is another word for core. Heart is another word for center. And so when you look at consciousness, everything is in consciousness. Everything is occurring within consciousness. And when you look at a higher or deeper level of consciousness, you will have to then venture into the center, into the core, into the heart. Because this is where the authentic, original feelings and emotions are stimulating the mind to create thoughts. Now we are breaking through the pattern of the loop of the lower mind that creates emotion and creates experience. And we move into the spiral, the ever-ascending, deepening, and expanding spiral of the heart-mind collaboration. Once you have that, healing can be sustainable and forever.
I like how you put that, and I also like, I think it can be akin to the mind, or the ego rather, can very, very powerfully influence the heart, and vice versa. And the mind can, like a yin and yang, can without practice really cause a problem for your mind, not for your mind, well, for both. But in the healing process, because if people were told they were getting a placebo, it would not work because their mind got in the way. And really, the placebo goes to the core of all of their belief system, goes to the feeling of life, that they feel that they're getting healed. It's not that they're intellectually thinking that they're getting healed. It's a deeper, I am recovering from this ailment because I believe it in my heart, not always in the mind. And that too, the placebo effect goes to even more things such as other than the physical ailments. The placebo effect, just from a hug, just from being welcome to a place, just being open to and very receptive to the positive energies of other people can have a massive healing effect that is basically a placebo. I mean, because you are feeling it, you are allowing it to blossom, and that is something in our society in the West that we don't give much consideration to, is that when the mind steps away and we believe that we're getting something, that we're getting some type of healing, our heart takes over and manifests itself in the whole healing process.
Yes. When our feeling streams and thought streams are aligning and weaving together in harmony, that's when our power of whatever it is we want to accomplish and achieve, whether it is a healing, whether it is to manifest something, to create something, to shift something in our life, to let go of something that that is no longer serving us, to bring something new into our life that we would like to. We've been really visualizing for a long time. When our feeling streams and thought streams are aligned, that's when the power is becoming unlimited. But this is something that takes time to practice.
It definitely takes time to practice. One thing that I've always had a thought and concern about with the placebo effect is this something that we can naturally tap into without being given this sugar pill? Is this something that authoritarian figures are just saying, all right, well, this is the pill and it's going to make you better? Is this something that each one of us individually can shift our own mind and consciousness to not even to break through the placebo effect and just start self-healing ourselves without having the authoritarian figure saying, this is medicine?
This is an excellent point, Trey. I really thank you for that. And I would say qualified yes, absolutely. Not only that, this is where we're going. This is where we're catalyzed to go. We are the placebo. It's not just that we accept it as a concept and then we see some results. That's another level, but it's a level on the way to a deeper level. The deeper level is to realize that we create the placebo effect in accordance with our preferences.
Yeah, because we definitely do create the placebo effect. And we started it in any trial study. We have a certain amount of placebos and they get better or they don't get better. But in most cases, on most medicines, the placebo effect works just as well, and most of the time even better than the actual medicine. And the best thing about the placebo effect is there's no side effects to it. If you can heal yourself within yourself, I mean, what can go bad? I mean, you're not taking any internal or you're not taking anything external and put it into your internal. You're using what you already have. You're making your mind create the chemicals in your head, or maybe you're saying, well, I took this pill, but I'm also going to change my life in these ways. Maybe I'm not going to eat this fast food over here because I just took this life-changing drug. And that would be a really bad thing to do, that if I put this food in my body, that would counteract this miracle drug they just gave me. So maybe the placebo effect goes even farther than just the sugar pill. You know, it's a whole life-altering set of changes that we are consciously saying, well, I've just got this. This is my second chance at life, man. I just got that new cancer cure that nobody's ever had before. And you cure yourself not only from the power of your mind, but the decisions that you make.
Yeah, the decisions you make play a heavy role in, in everything, in your lifestyle, how your body heals itself. I was just reading an article this morning that I started last night. It was a pretty lengthy article about these people that have lived for a very, very long time, well over 100 years. And what seems absurd, the documented cases that are very credible cases of people living over 200 years, like the very credible cases. And it's hard to, it's impossible to disprove it. And they all did something very simple. They ate things that were grown in light. They ate berries and fruits, and they knew in their heart and in their mind that that was giving them the nourishment for a long, healthy life. So they believed it, and they fed themselves with the nourishment that allowed their body to even enhance their own beliefs. It even gave them a boost. And that is, that's something pretty powerful in and of itself.
You know, just what you said there is another form of the placebo effect. If you think the food that you're eating is a good quality food, and you're eating, whole foods, you're not eating, Stouffer's from the frozen food section, you're out foraging and you're putting the heart and love into the food that you're making. I think that even goes back to what Gil said, is bringing your heart into it. If you're growing your own food, you have a new level of love and passion for your food, and you know where it comes from, and you've taken care of it. And you taking care of the food is then in turn going to take care of you. I think that makes a big difference in diet and how you live, is the connection to your food, the connection to your body, and the end results. Because someone else could eat the same diet as you, but call it the placebo effect or not. If you have the connection with your food and you've been there loving it, and then it in turn loves you, that's a whole nother thing. I think that's a lot of what I get from Gil, is just having the love and bringing your heart into all things.
Well, as a farmer, I can tell you, whenever I started to grow food, it was a life-altering experience whenever I had these other farmers suggest to me, which I thought was totally absurd, that I need to go in and talk to my plants. I need to, when I walk in the morning, I need to say, hey, good morning, babies. How y'all doing? How's everybody? I thought that was insane. And, but I said, you know what? I'm going to give this a try just because. Like, I just wanted to do it.
I mean, what do you have to lose?
Right. So we had measured the growth of our plants for a while. And so we knew the stages of growth. We knew what they should look like and how they should be developing. And whenever I started talking to the plants, there was a measurable difference in the greenhouses that I would go in and talk to versus the greenhouses, even though everything's identical. Everything is perfectly identical, except I made a conscious effort to just go talk to certain greenhouses and not the other ones. And they grew fine, the ones I didn't talk to. But the ones I did, measurably different. The leaves were more vibrant. The taste was even better. I was just shocked. Like the first time I was like, okay, this was a fluke. So I just kept doing it. And I was like, I'm going to go talk to all of them now. Like I just got to figure this thing out. And I continued to talk to all the plants, and it made a world of difference. And whenever on days or even if weeks went by, in some cases, I did not go talk to them, they started to look depressed. Like they were not happy that I was not in there wishing them well, telling them how much I love them. Just like how water molecularly changes whenever you wish your water good intent. That's just a proven fact. And it's the same way with plants. They're mostly water, just like we are. So that is, that I could say probably acts similar to a placebo, because I'm wishing that thing love, and I'm not giving it any more nutrients. I'm giving it the nourishment of love and affection, and all of a sudden it responds to it and begins strengthening itself and healing itself of whatever problems it may have, because I just wished it so.
You know, I would say that goes right along with the placebo effect, because you, again, are the person going in there and you're giving the plants this call to action almost, you know, and without you going in there, they don't have that human calling them to action. They don't have anything other than the nutrition you're giving them. But when you walk in there and you talk to them, that is just like a doctor coming in and talking to you. That's like if you go back and look at doctors that have good bedside manner versus doctors that have bad bedside manner, the patients who have a doctor with good bedside manner always leave the hospital sooner and are more healthy when they leave, and they feel better about the whole experience. I mean, good bedside manner is just like you going in there and talking to your plants.
Yeah, it does, and it has a placebo effect for sure. Manners have a placebo effect. Really everything, from breathing to taking a pause to being in the moment now, being conscious of who you want to spend your time with and the energies that they provide you. And whenever you perceive that you're getting good energies from someone else, that acts also as a placebo effect for you, because you believe it is benefiting you, and because you believe it, it is so. And if you don't believe it, then it's not so.
It's definitely not so. No, if you don't believe it, you definitely can't achieve it. You've got to believe in you first.
The heart and the mind being combined to get you through it. I've read many stories of people getting lost in the mountains, or in like Mount Everest even. People who come out like a week later and they survived. You know what I mean? Without food, it's the will to live.
Just the will.
That's the mind and the heart getting you through that.
Yeah.
But those are like miraculous stories, you know?
But isn't that, Gil, a placebo effect? You're telling your mind and your heart, I am going to survive. Your heart is saying, I have my beautiful spouse I need to get to. I have my beautiful children. I'm going to make it through this. And you can end up making, not in every case, but in a lot of cases they make it. And then if you tell yourself, I'm a goner, it's over, I can't deal with the stress, all of a sudden you're a goner.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that point up, Colton, because anybody that's ever went on a diet or trained for some event, whether it's lifting weights or whatever it is, and you know you want to eat extra clean leading up to the event, And sometimes you're really hungry, especially if you're doing a bodybuilding or you're going to take pictures or something for whatever. If you sit down and you tell yourself, man, I'm so hungry, or oh, I'm so thirsty, man, you're not going to make it. It's going to be a tough, tough time. But if you sit down and say, you know what, I ate, that was a perfect size meal, that was really good, I cleaned my plate, just make a smaller plate. That's the placebo effect. You have a big plate and you fill it up and you eat it and you're satisfied, but you shrink your plate down and you trick yourself. That's the placebo effect. You're still cleaning your plate, but it's a much smaller portion, and you're telling yourself, oh, I was really satisfied with that. If you tell yourself, man, that was a good meal and it was good for me, it works a lot better than, man, I really hate eating just broccoli and rice. That's terrible. But, if you tell yourself you like it, like I used to despise doing sit-ups, could not stand them. And I would make myself do them. And I would say, every time I would do one, I was like, man, I love this. I love this. And after a while, I was like rushing through the rest of my set so I could do some abs, so I could get to that, because I told myself enough times, I lied to myself enough times that I liked it. I liked it. And I think a lot of all life is like that, no matter what you're going through. If you tell yourself, it's like faking it till you make it. It's the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And it acts very much like a placebo effect.
What is the placebo effect, especially if you're taking a big plate and making it smaller?
Yeah, for sure.
And you're shrinking your portion down and you're telling yourself that you're satisfied with it.
What about the, like older people that would pass away and their spouse would die like a day later? How they're like, what do you call it, like a grief death?
Grief death, yeah.
Yeah, it happens
like that's regularly. It's almost like you're purging all of it out, like all your energies and stuff like that, and then you just go with them.
Yeah, well, that's a placebo effect in a lot of people's cases. Somebody else that they love happens to pass away, and in turn, the effect on them is so negative that they just have to go.
It brings me to the point that you said, I think we were talking a couple weeks back about the sad guru, and he was saying, not to tell your partner that you can't live without him, but, I really like you and I enjoy your company, but, I'll be okay without you. That, Colton, you just brought up on the grief death. I mean, if you put your whole stock into that person, I can't live without you. What am I without you?
You manifest that.
Yeah, you do. It manifests that in a physical way. I mean, those are only thoughts in your head. And like what Gil say is, it's also thoughts in your heart creating that loop. And then, it comes to fruition. I mean, if the other one dies and you can't live without them, they really couldn't. They had to take a physical death because of something that was really, it was emotionally. They took a physical death from something that was nothing. It was just ether. I mean, that's all really feelings and thoughts are. It's just ether. They don't exist in the physical world until they do.
Until they do.
Yeah, until they do.
I touched on this last week, but I had an anxiety disorder for like 10 years. I quit high school from it, and they put me on medication that had all kind of side effects. Like at 16 years old, it was wild. But I ended up getting off the medication. I beat it mentally with visualization, relaxation, and breathing. And it was, I had the most terrible sensations and symptoms, and it's crazy. I mentally just beat it.
Yeah, and that is the placebo effect. It's really telling yourself a certain thing, and you either believe it or you don't, or you continue to tell yourself a certain thing and make it true.
And now, like, if I start to have a panic attack, I can literally like shut it off. And like I tell myself it's literally fake. I'm like, oh, it's fake. I know what it is, because it really is false fear. But I don't know. That's my testimony in that, and I've seen it happen.
What's that thing Mark Twain used to say is, I'm worried about many things in my life and most of them never came true.
Yeah. Well, since you brought up Mark Twain, he also said he smoked cigars in moderation, one right after another.
Yeah.
But here's the thing we were talking about earlier, like you talking about being distracted. Distraction ain't so bad, because I've experienced it where, say you're having an anxiety attack, or you have this like something's wrong with you. You're constantly in paranoia or whatever. But there's a moment, like 5 minutes would go by, and I would catch myself go, wait, I didn't feel anxious at all, because I'm so distracted.
Nice.
It's like people who go to war, a lot of people come back and have post-traumatic stress disorder because they're constantly dwelling on it. It's in the forefront of their mind. But some can just keep going because they gotta just keep going. You know what I mean?
You know, I think a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder lies from the fact of, did you come back a winner or did you come back a loser? Like, you don't hear anybody from the World War II era coming back with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh, but yeah, hold on. I gotta stop. Yeah, I gotta stop you right there, because that is not true at all.
Well, they handled it different. They didn't call it that.
Yeah,
They didn't sit in psychiatrists' offices and dwell on it. They handled it differently. Is really what I'm trying to say. Is I guess they handled it differently.
Yeah, they handled it very, very differently than we do now. I mean, we coddle society now, and we coddle everyone to a large degree. Everyone's feelings matter, and everybody gets their feelings hurt over everything. So you got to watch what you say about every single bitty thing, or somebody around you is going to get their feelings hurt. Well, that wasn't the way it was during World War II.
Yeah, the more you ponder on it, the stronger it is.
Right, for sure.
I mean, London was getting bombed all the time, and people were still getting up and going to work like it was no big deal.
Oh yeah, I mean, they were getting bombed nonstop. They didn't say, "Oh, put on your mask and go inside because the bomb's going to catch you and you're going to get a bomb today."
Or all the asbestos coming out from this.
Right, they're just like, "Oh, well, bombs are flying on us. I got to get to work." You know, that's just what they did. That's a whole different toughness of character and purpose of life, and everybody dealt with it differently. And it goes to what Gil talks about all the time, is that people end up finding their inner strength and their own pathway to overcome something, and that is just the way it's been throughout history. And luckily, we've had so many groups and cultures around the world that have shamans, they have priests, they have different fundamental structures that address spirituality issues that help people get over that. Especially in Central and South America, it was extremely common to use ayahuasca and psychedelics to get over things. Same way in Egypt and other cultures. There are a myriad of practices that instantly began the healing process, besides letting it all build up inside of you and just tear you apart. But which again starts to go into that placebo effect. You believe something that you're healing yourself and you become healed. And a lot of people from World War II with that different character, they just continue to feel like we are. A lot of those men, we don't talk about our problems. I don't need to talk to you about anything. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to suck it up and figure out how to go on the next day. And then some of them just totally broke down because they couldn't figure it out for themselves. But it goes to the placebo effect. What thoughts are things? If you believe that someone is pissing you off, well, then you're getting pissed off. If you believe somebody just offended you, well, you're offended. If you believe that this cold is going to turn into pneumonia and kill you, well, you're probably going to die of pneumonia. It's the same thing. Thoughts are powerful energies that affect us in such dramatic ways. If you feel like you're upset with your child, and well, you manifest that thing. If you feel, I understand my child, I'm willing and able and want to understand and talk to him. Maybe they're not ready yet, but whenever they are, I'll be able to. That's different than going, well, I'm just pissed off at him. I'll just go yell at him a little bit and then everything will be great. That's not how that works. The placebo doesn't work that way, because that's not a placebo. You're reinforcing a positive or negative thing. And it doesn't have to be. It's all perception. The placebo is a perception. You get the saline shot in your arm. It's a perception that you're getting medication. And whenever some loudmouth is popping off at you somewhere, you let it affect you because you internalized it that way, just as the placebo. So if you allow it to affect you, then guess what? It affects you.
Although that takes a whole nother level of mental concentration and study. I mean, those are those things that Yeah, discipline. That's what it is. Because, you know, I always tell, because I have a small child, and it's like, you know, you shouldn't let that upset you. And if you get angry at it, well, you let the other person win because they wanted to make you angry. So if you get angry and you manifest that, then you let them win. And you don't want them to win, do you? You should stay calm. Yeah, you don't want them to win.
We're competitive here in Texas. You're not getting me mad.
That's right. If you're not first, you're last, baby.
That's right. You're never getting me mad, buddy. Gil, do you have any tools as a mental placebo to on outside of the healing your body, but just placebo effects on healing your moods? Is there any practices that you could recommend to the three of us? Because sometimes I'll get in a funky mood and I got to talk myself right out of it. I just said, all right, Kevin, you know this is not the mood you need to be in. Like, I didn't recognize I was in a funky mood the other day, and Joker says, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Well, nothing's wrong." And then I'm thinking, well, all right, well, maybe something is wrong because, you know, I don't ever go, well, nothing's wrong, you know?
It's crazy how the other person can feel it.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when you can't feel it.
And my personal tool is, okay, I just realized it or somebody brought it to my attention, so then I have to think about it for a minute, and I'll start talking myself right out of it. I just tell myself, well, you're not going to do that because that's you know, my inner asshole trying to come out. And I'm like, well, we're not going to let you out, buddy. You sit back down in that corner where you belong. I love you, and you got a place in there. I don't know what it's for, but you sit over there and shut up. You got any other advice besides that, Gil?
This is a very good one because that can be spread into so many tools that you can use, because this is such a wide space that you open up for yourself in your own being, in your own heart, mind, in your own consciousness, is to look at those family members, those individual family members. And we're back to the round table, and some of them will not so easily go to the round table. They're not ready yet, they're just not ready. So you bring the table to them. It's okay. You find the position, you find the approach, and you find a formula to start to pour on that child of yours, on that family member of yours, because it is a part of you. It is a child of yours. And if you can approach it with the attitude of an unconditional loving parent coming to a child that was just disturbed, a child that is throwing a tantrum because it is disturbed, it is traumatic, it needs to heal that. And you find from your heart energetics, which is really where the real medicine is. And speaking about placebo, there is external medicine and it's wonderful. And we're going to go through many, many of these. And science is going to develop and medicine is going to develop. And we're going to create greater and greater pills and greater placebo effects until we will realize the real medicine, which is not coming from any outside sources. It's coming only from within. So when you can come to a family member like that, whether it is an asshole, whether it is an angry child, whether it is a frustrated, afraid.
Hold on, I got to stop you. Why do you point at me when you say asshole?
Because you always mention your asshole. So,
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
It was a subconscious point of the finger over there.
Myself included.
Yeah.
I'm not lacking in those assholes. But again, I always then find the formula and first of all, I am being present with them. I'm not trying to also brush them off really quick and tell them, look, you're disturbing me right now, I'm busy, I want to, you're making them stronger when you do that.
Yeah, probably.
You're making this cloud from your past, this dark cloud, bigger. If you tell it, okay, shut the F.
Right.
Because I need to, no, but if you turn around, and this is all internal, okay? Really, when you get adept, when you become skillful at this inner practice, at this inner communication, you can make it in an instant, yeah? Because you're not in time-space when you're in your deeper heart and mind. You go outside of time. This is happening internally. This is happening in your quantum community, deep within. So you turn around to that entity, to that child, however you want to call it, and you immediately tell it, okay, beloved, listen, that's okay, I understand. And thank you, first of all, thank you for bringing it to my attention, okay? And thank you for the gift that you have for me. I'm just about to receive it from you, okay? But understand also that we're not doing this anymore, okay? It served us in the past, but it doesn't serve us anymore, okay? So now we're shifting. This is inner communication. This is between you and yourself. Now, that can bring into a placebo effect, because ultimately you become self-convinced in your own inner communication. Just like any other narrative that is convincing you in a certain reality and truth. Most of them here are false. But yet we've normalized it because it's justified, because it's socially accepted. But this social acceptance is it's a mastermind psychological engineering sabotaging. It's a hypnosis. So the placebo is a form of hypnosis, or shocking someone out of the hypnosis and then suggesting a new narrative. This is what we do within. We can develop, and I can suggest many, many tools that are tying up to the same subjects, but I'll stop here because I can go on and on and on. But if you take that as a foundational concept and start to explore it within yourself playfully, really, not taking yourself too seriously, but just playfully, you'll find the power for healing, for self-healing, for self-restoration, for self-integration, and ultimately self-transformation.
Yeah, that was great. Just like what you and Trey just said, you talk to yourself in a playful way. Trey's knowingly and purposefully getting a smaller portion, or he's talking himself into sit-ups, or me telling, well, sometimes I do it playfully, sometimes I do it incorrectly and just say, hey, you just need to go park yourself. But sometimes I'll play with it and, hey, you're being stupid, and I just make a joke about it, and then my inner self lightens up and it just feels light and joyful, and I just make a joke with inside of myself, like, well, all you people in there are funny. All you people inside there trying to create a bad day for me is humorous, because most of us live in a place where if we just focus on the immediate, the right now, life's pretty good. Life's not bad.
Life is so much better than we are told to think it is. We're told to think how bad life is, but really, if you think about it, life in the 21st century, especially in first world countries, is really, really, really great. I mean, we have so much access to everything we need. Not everything we may want, but we have access to everything we need in the first world for sure.
Yeah, and not only that, we have the ability to use the placebo effect of talking to ourselves and reinforcing the positive and reach a higher spiritual level by telling ourselves that is what we're doing. I am going to do a certain thing, and that certain thing ends up happening. You're just like Colton said, I'm going to go take a walkabout, and that's going to make me feel better. That's just something I got to do. And he told himself he believed that, and I don't know if it really worked or not. It might have. It's the same thing. Same thing with your sit-ups. That's just the way it goes. Well, thank you all for joining us. You can find us at mysticsoftexas.com and all the other BitChutes and Rumbles and YouTubes and Patreon and everything else. And I appreciate y'all joining us.
Have a good day.